Sometimes you want to monitor what indexes are actually being used so that you can find and drop any indexes that aren't being used. Oracle provides a capability to do this via a setting on the index. What you do is run the SQL shown, alter index, your index name, monitoring usage. This is very low overhead, and what Oracle will do is once the index has been used, a flag will get set, and you can look at the value of this flag via the $object usage view with the query shown on the slide. When you're ready to turn index monitoring off, you can run the alter index command again, this time with the non-monitoring keyword though. Now this monitoring is pretty basic. It's just a true-false flag. It doesn't tell you when the index was used or how many times, but it can be used as a first pass to find out if an index is being used or not. If you want to get some more details on how often an index is being used, another option you have is to look at the $SQL plan view. Through this view, any execution plan that Oracle currently has cached in the shared SQL area, you're able to view the individual steps of the execution plan for. So we can query this view and find all of the execution plan steps that are using an index and what index they're using, and then join this information back to the all indexes view and the $SQL stats view to get an idea of how often the index is being used and by how many different SQL statements. The query you see on your screen is an example of such a query. Now don't worry about pausing the video to write this query down. I'm going to post this query on my blog, which is listed in the title slide of each module. But this does provide us some more information rather than just a simple yes/no flag. That having been said, there are some limitations to this approach. Since this query uses the $SQL plan view, this is only capturing what statements are in the shared SQL area right now. So a statement that ran a few hours ago may have been cleared out of the cache and wouldn't show up in this query. So you don't just want to run this query once and determine that an index isn't being used, because maybe a particular index is only used at night during your batch process or something like that. But you could set up a script to run this query every hour for a few days, maybe dumping the results to a table each time, and then it would be pretty easy to see what indexes are being used and how frequently. Regardless of what you do, a query like this or a different variation does provide you a lot more details, because now you can see how many different statements are using a particular index and how often. There is one other way to get index usage information, and this is through the Oracle AWR, or Automated Workload Repository tool. This is a tool that's separately licensed by Oracle and is really designed more for DBAs. But if you suspect that you have some indexes that aren't being used or only lightly being used, talk to your DBA. Your DBA will be able to tell you if you're licensed to use AWR, and if you are, they'll probably be happy to run an AWR report for you that tells you how often a particular index is being used and which ones aren't being used. This wraps up our discussion of indexing costs and how to find indexes that aren't being used or not being used very much. There are a couple of takeaways from this discussion. The first is to realize that indexes do have a cost, both in terms of disk space and overhead to maintain the index. The second takeaway, though, is that indexing is really all about finding balance. Don't let the fact that an index has some cost associated with it dissuade you from creating indexes. If the index is helping a number of other statements run faster, then that is a worthy trade-off. Maybe you have an index and it's there for one statement, but this is a very critical statement in your nightly batch process that helps that process run in just a few seconds rather than taking tens of minutes. Again, that's a worthy trade-off. What you want to be concerned about is that you don't want to be creating indexes that aren't going to get used. These don't serve any purpose and just create overhead. So if you do have some of these indexes out there, you want to find them and drop them and get them out of your database.